We are live. How
Yes,
exciting.
we are live. Yay.
Woo! The team
Martin,
are back together again.
Martin is back. And I am so excited about this talk. Talking about
Likewise.
honesty, which, like you say, seems simple, but isn't, is it?
Simple doesn't mean easy,
No.
right? But we can
No.
overcomplicate things. So
Yes.
my whole thing is to simplify whatever I do or learn is to simplify it so that we can actually use it in real terms, in real life, rather than it just being too complicated and 57 steps to improve your life and using words that I can't even pronounce, let alone spell. It's like simplify stuff.
Yeah.
So that's my whole thing, and that's what we're going to do today in terms of honesty and give you some frameworks around that. And yes, it's going to be fun.
It
I mean,
is.
I was just saying to you, wasn't I, Jill, that yeah, and a massive thank you for having me back, right?
Oh, thank you for coming
Because
back.
we've had various talks. I was looking at them. We've done like self care. We've done the real life of a business owner and a coach. We've
Yeah.
done meaning and life lessons. We've done extreme confidence. I think last time I was here, we we did the world exclusive arrow break,
Yes,
and it was my first one after my breakthrough certification. So it's like we've covered so much stuff,
we
and it
have.
all brings us to here, where we're now going to just really strip it back and go. Let's talk about honesty. Let's talk about getting honest as your first step to improve, change, or achieve anything.
Yes.
Like that's nice. I like that.
Yes.
Whew. So, I mean,
Yeah.
would it be useful? Because I know you've got your community is amazing, right? We've got some very familiar faces there that
Yeah.
we've grown up with over the last few years and
Yeah.
become very good friends. And then I'm guessing you've got some new people too. So
Yeah.
should I just do a really quick
Yeah,
recap of
absolutely.
who the heck I am
Yeah,
in
an
case somebody's
intro.
there going, "Who is he? What? This like they look really good buddies, but I have no clue who he is."
Yes, absolutely, Martin.
Cool. All right then. So, hi, I'm Martin. I live in the UK, Gloucestershire, lovely county, and I'm a coach. I'm a life coach, confidence coach, breakthrough coach. But my nefarious plan is to help you live your most extraordinary life with extreme confidence. So, in other words, just live your best life. That is my nefarious plan. When you see me sharing stuff on social media and the trainings and doing things like this, I literally just want you to live your best life.
Yeah.
And the reason for that, and the reason I'm so passionate about that, is because I spent 20 years in the corporate world. I'm in the financial services ladder, right through from education, and then that was my 20-year career. I did lots of good stuff, and good stuff by colleagues, clients,
Yeah.
industry wide. And I went from kind of being a marketing assistant that also did a lot of proofreading,
Right.
checking policy documents and key features documents. I
Really
mean,
exciting.
oh my God. Yeah, the stuff nobody else reads, I read them all, right? There was no mistakes in them. But I went from that right through over that 20 years, climbing that ladder, surviving every restructure that was every 6 to 18 months, and ultimately responsible for millions of clients across multiple brands and billions of pounds worth of investments, pensions, and profits.
Yeah.
So that was my career, but it took, as you know, Jill, and many of your lovely listeners and watchers know, it took its toll. So what started off as um, low level stress, and if I was being honest, that was there from the start. So,
Mm.
so you rewind 20 years and go, low level stress was already there from day one. Okay. I wonder where this could go. Well, it went from low level stress to high stress to low mood to depression to insomnia to liver disease to burnout to self harm and then deciding to take my life. So you're looking, not wishing to dampen the mood, you're looking at
No, no.
somebody who is on their seventh chance of life. I've died and come back. I've been taking my last two breaths on my living room floor twice. I decided to take my life, and I've survived two car crashes. Not my fault, by the way. So I'm like the cat with 9 lives, and I'm on my 7th chance at the moment. So I kind of, it affords me a rather unique perspective, I guess, on life and what it means to live your life,
Yeah.
and this gift of life that we have. And I know you get this, Jill, and I don't know a lot of everyone listening. They know that this is a gift, but when you're on your 7th chance of life, it really hits home, and you don't want regrets, and you want to go out kicking and screaming with scars and just go and live your best life. Do whatever it is that you want to do that you know you're going to regret if you don't give it a go. So that is what drives me, because I don't want anybody to feel like I did. I lost myself completely for 20 years. And yeah, I had all the trappings of, like, had the salary and the position in a company and the house and the cars and the holidays, and I got a beautiful family. So on the outside, it looked like, oh, Martin's living the ideal life.
Yeah.
Inside, I was absolutely broken. And I don't want that for anybody, no matter, any part of that journey, even the low level stress. I don't want people to have it.
No.
So, in therapy, I stood up and suddenly realized who I was again, and realized why I'd been on this journey. Because when you've been on that kind of journey, you do have some questions.
Yeah.
You kind of start questioning you, the universe, and everything.
Yeah.
But I suddenly realized I've been through it all so I could share my story, share my life lessons, share what I've learned, and then just help other people live a better life and avoid some of the stuff that I went through. Because it doesn't just affect you, it affects everybody around you. It affected my whole family. So that's me. That's what drives me to do what I do today. And I've just spent the last, this is from 2017. So the last 7 years figuring out, how do I use it? How do I become a coach? How do I become a mentor or a trainer or a speaker? How do I kind of put all this stuff together? And what else is there to learn? Had the absolute privilege to learn from some of the most successful personal development people on the planet. Then take what I've learned, use it so that it's lived experience, not just something I've read or experienced that somebody's talked about. Use it, figure out what works, what doesn't, in what order to do things, figure out what's a fad and what's not a fad, what's got longevity, and then put it all together and then help people in whatever way I can. So that wasn't really a nutshell, but that's what I'm all about. And I bring that passion with everything I've got. And today we're going to talk about getting honest, because throughout my entire journey, the first step to any improvement, any change, anything that I've then achieved, on reflection, I had to get honest about where the heck I was and how I was feeling in the first place. So there we are. That's me.
Yes. I've lost your sound, Martin. You've muted yourself.
There we go.
You're back.
Hear me?
Very faintly.
I can't hear you. Oh, I like this.
There. You're back. I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
You're back? I can hear you. You can hear me?
Yes.
Where did we get to? 1802? What? I take it you heard my story, and then
yes, yeah. Oh yes, Martin. As soon as I said I can't hear you, it was in that moment. I wouldn't have sat here listening to you saying.
That was the FBI tuning in, going, enough. We've heard this before, Martin. No. And they're worried about how honest I'm going to get. That's what it is.
That's the big thing, isn't it?
Oh, keep listening.
There's so many levels to honesty, though, aren't there?
Yeah, there are.
And I've been thinking about it a lot since, you gave me what we were going to talk about with honesty, and really exploring it for myself.
Yeah. That's what we want to do. I think when we think of honesty, when somebody says about honesty, I think our first point is often kind of, honesty is the best policy. We're kind of brought up with that, isn't it? So be honest. And it's very much be honest with other people. So, be honest with others, and an advocate for that. Okay, let's encourage that. I support that. But what today really is all about. It's about being honest with ourselves. And I think that's the most important thing. But it's not really something that we talk about, or that we're taught or trained on, or but it's so important because it leads to everything else.
Yeah.
So it is about that, because if you're, again, this is kind of within the like the personal development sort of arena and living your best life arena. So we're talking about if you want to improve something or change something or overcome something or achieve something. So the very first point for me is we need to get honest about where we're at. And what I've done, if you would afford me a little bit of time just to frame this really, because I've said it's the first step to improve your life. And the reason I say that is because my observation of my own kind of development over the time, and anything that I've changed, improved, overcome, or achieved, and then how I've gone about helping other people do that, and then even observing how other people have done it, and then even without my help, you kind of recognize patterns. If you're like paying a close attention, you kind of see the steps that people, they might not call them steps. They go, oh, that's interesting. They kind of did that. And then they did that. And then they did that. So I came up with this, what I call the 7 steps to improve your life, which, and part of today's talk, the reason I love talking about honesty is because I sometimes get challenged on this. I've had recent conversations where people are challenged. They go, Martin, take action is step 6. What are you talking about? What's all this honesty stuff? Step 1, wait. People are out there saying, take massive action. You know, take action, do something, start, do it now. Don't procrastinate, don't overplan, just do it, take action. And that is so important, so important. But for my 7 steps, it's step 6. And it's like, people are, what are you talking about? But for me, and you know, I guess all of us have learned this lesson. I would rather myself and other people take the right action at the right time for the right reasons and in the right way. Right? That's kind of how I look at this. Because
that's really important. And I was thinking about, because you said that requires being honest to yourself.
It does.
Because if it is, I'm not doing it because I'm afraid, but you say it's not the right time. That's not honest to yourself. But if you can say it's not the right time and you get challenged on it, you can stand absolutely firm and say, I've really looked into this and I know that it's not the right time for me now. And the challenges won't faze you.
That's right.
Because you've questioned those things.
It's exactly that. It's kind of like, let's use a fun example. It's like there's a beautiful beach and it has the most amazing sunset in the world. It's like, it's a spiritual experience when you see this sunset over this beach. Like, it's amazing. And you go, I'm going to go and see it. So you go take massive action, right? Hire a helicopter to get you there, 100 miles an hour. And you go east towards the mountains. Now you're taking massive, passionate action, but you're going the wrong way. You're taking the wrong action. You're not going to get to the destination. And by the way, you also weren't honest about where you were. The sun sets in 20 minutes and you're 500 miles away. You ain't even going to make it. So I know it's a crazy example, but when we start, if we take action before thinking or getting honest, then we're causing ourselves problems. We're not going to actually make the improvement or the change or achieve the thing and we're going to get frustrated by that. And because we're going to be taking all this amazing action, we're going to get really excited about it and it's not happening. You go, well, why isn't it happening? It's like, well, because you were on step 6. You didn't start with step 1. And so it's kind of looking at it like that. And so these 7 steps and the more I look at it, it's like honesty creeps into each and every one.
Yeah.
So it's that common theme. So first step, get honest. Get honest about where you're at. So again, if you want to improve or change or achieve anything, where are you? How do you feel? How do you feel about yourself? You know, I've mentioned it many, many times, but my favorite motivational talk, A Life Worth Remembering by Tom Bilyeu. One of the messages in there, what do you think about yourself when you're by yourself?
Yeah.
And I tell you what, people don't like that because sometimes they don't like to hear what they've got to say about themselves. But we've got to go there. And you've said in the run up to this, it can be tough. We got to go deep and it can get pretty emotional. And sometimes we don't like the answers, but we need to bring those answers out in order to then be able to deal with them and move forward positively. If we just like bury it all down and just ignore it, as I'll point out in a minute, in terms of, you know, I'm going to take you on a journey to Finesville, right? But we're not being truthful. So we have to start with that. And how do we feel about ourselves? How do we feel about our relationships? How do we feel about work, life? And whatever it is, you can either do it really generally in terms of how you're feeling about life, or if there's something specific you want to improve, you go, right, okay, how am I feeling about this at the moment? And what's this costing me by not kind of improving it or changing it? You know, what the opportunities that are lost, or what's the impact it's having on my relationships or my health? Or we got to go deep into that kind of honesty, because then we can deal with it. Then we can move forward. But otherwise, we're just kidding ourselves.
Yeah.
It's like building everything else on sand if we're not honest.
Yeah.
So that's why step one, get honest, because it's also like your sat nav in your car. Being a driving instructor, you like a good car analogy. Get honest is literally your starting point in your sat nav. So you have to be honest about where you're at. Again, I'll illustrate this in other ways. Step two is get clear. So get clear on the destination. So it's like your sat nav, right? Here's where I am, and here's where I want to go. What I will say is I am less interested in the destination, and I am more interested in the outcome, the experience, what it is. And the reason for that is, let's do some examples. I love going to Orlando, right? So the destination, I want to go to Orlando. It's kind of exciting. It's in another country, but I want to get to Orlando isn't very exciting. What's exciting is, yeah, I'm going to Orlando because when I get to Orlando, I'm going to have this incredible experience. I'm going to be at Walt Disney World in their resorts, and I'm going to have first-class service, and we're just going to be like a kid again, and it's just going to be all the music, and we're going to get to rope drop with the Mickey's in the gang is going to join us at like 7 o'clock in the morning, and we're going to go through the arches, and then we're going to walk up Main Street, and the barbershop quartet is going to be singing. It's going to be amazing. And then all those smells from the bakery come through because they pump those out into Main Street. And then you see the parade, and then you see the show and the riding experience. But there's a big difference between what I just said and I'm going to Orlando.
Yeah.
We can use this in any area of life. Don't get excited about the thing. Get excited about what it means, the experience, the opportunity as a result of it. Because that's what then drives us, right? That's a bit like what you were saying earlier. It's like, if we get challenged or we come up with an obstacle or life hits us, we're more likely, if we've got that kind of excitement about the destination, we're still likely to go on. Okay, we might inch forward rather than leaps and bounds, but we'll still move forward.
Yeah.
So step one and step two are setting your sat nav. And step three is then just going deeper into the passion. Is get passionate. Why do you want to go there in the first place? Why? And keep asking yourself why until you get out of your head and into your heart. So these first three steps, if everybody did these with their New Year's resolutions, they'd still be going right now. But as it is, most people they're not honest about where they're at. They're certainly not clear about where they want to get to, and they're not that passionate about it. So after 2 weeks, 97% or 98% of New Year's resolutions have gone by the wayside.
Yeah.
Because again, if you use the example of, there's a big difference between I want to get fit, one of the most common New Year's resolutions, but I want to get fit never inspired anybody in the history of the world.
No.
But I want to run around the garden with my kids. I want to be able to lift them up above my head without putting my shoulder out. I want to run around without pulling a hamstring. And if they want to play football for an hour, I've got abundant energy to be able to do that. And then as they grow up, we're going to go on adventures. We're going to go on hikes, and we're going to go on snowboarding and skiing, and we're going to go climbing. And I've got the energy. I've got no qualms about my ability to be able to do those things. And in fact, I want the kind of fitness that when they grow up and they have kids, I'm doing the same thing with the grandkids.
Yeah.
I want to get fit versus that.
Yeah.
That's the passionate reason. That's the passionate why. But you can also say, that's getting honest.
Yeah.
Why do you want this? Because if you haven't got a strong enough why, if you're not getting honest about that, then what the heck's the point in doing it in the first place? Do something else that's going to light you up.
Don't you
So
think
certain steps.
we
So go
can
on, Jill.
often jump on other people's whys?
Oh yeah. I mean, it could be family expectations, friend expectations, or peer pressure. It can be social expectations. It can be, just fitting into the culture at work. It can be all kinds of things where we try and fit in, and we're doing this thing. We think we're doing it for the right reasons, and it ends up going against our values, and we wonder why we're so frazzled, and we feel like exhausted, and we feel like, well, what the heck's going on? My 20-year journey, right? I went into that corporate world because after taking my formal education, I looked out in the world and went, right, Martin, it's now time to be professional and credible and grown up, whatever the heck that means. So it led me down a path, but I was this crazy, outdoorsy, nerdy musician, artist, crazy person that didn't get an opportunity to hone those skills, those talents, those passions. I just went down this really staid route. And yeah, okay, 20 years, and a lot of good came from it. But as time went on, I was totally misaligned. I didn't belong there. I didn't feel like I belonged there. And I didn't feel like I was good enough to be there, even though nothing proved that that was the case. So you're right. We can get swept away with things. So if we go deeper, if we take the time to get honest about where we're at, get clear about where we want to go, get passionate about why we want to get there. Step 4, I love step 4 because it's get help. Now, you might have Herculean discipline, and if you have, you can do it yourself. But most people
still have blind spots, don't you?
But you still have blind spots, yeah, because you don't know it. If you haven't done this thing before, again, we have to be honest. I often say about reaching out as you've got to be courageous. You've got to have a bit of courage to go, I don't have the answers, so I need some help. I need some support. And this doesn't have to be because your life's falling apart. This could literally be because you want to learn this new thing.
Yeah.
If you haven't done it before, how can you possibly know all the answers or even have all the questions? Again, from personal experience, for 20 years, I had to be the one with the answers because there was a restructure around the corner and I didn't want to show any level of weakness. But there were plenty of times when I needed support and help, but I was too bloody minded to ask for it. So then it caused me more grief in trying to do it myself. Because when you get somebody that's got the right experience, the right skills, and is willing to share, like you and I, Jill, and lots of people that are watching, you can help them go faster than doing it by yourself. And they won't have as much trial and error. Because when you're trying to do it yourself, you're going, well, does this work? And then you watch another YouTube video and you go, well, does that work? And then you read an article and you go, well, does that work? And then you find a nice shiny book and you go, well, does that work? And you're trying all these things, but there's no consistency. And it takes you so much longer. And it's frustrating. And there's pain and there's suffering as a result of that. And the chances of you giving up, massive.
Yeah.
Having someone by your side, though, just with that guidance, to give that perspective, to give that reassurance, to sit there and when you go off track, get you back on track because they remind you of why you're doing this in the first place.
Yeah.
Right? That's what getting help is all about. It's not a weakness. And I've turned that one round into a superpower because if I don't know the answer to something, I'll go and ask somebody. Whereas before I was petrified of doing that because of a fear culture of making a mistake or not feeling or not showing that you're good enough. Nowadays, it's great fun because you go, well, who could I ask? I don't know the answer to that. I have no clue. I wonder what the answer is. I'll go and find somebody, and it's going to be a lot easier and a lot quicker to do that than try and figure it out yourself. Or watch 97 different YouTube videos that tell you 97 different things, and you're more confused than when you started.
Yeah.
So we've got to, I said, get honest threads through all of this, because we've got to get honest that we don't have the answers and that it's okay. And then we have the courage to reach out and get some help. And once you've got the help, you get to step 5, which is you can plan what your steps are. Plan what you're going to do. Not the whole plan. You don't have to have 97 steps to the ultimate destination, but maybe just that first step, right?
It's those first steps that are always the important ones, aren't they?
They are. And they can often be the toughest because you're trying to build the momentum. It's like having a massive snowball, isn't it? You know, you're trying to push it, but it's massive and it just feels like it's stuck. But once you get a little bit of a wobble on, and then it just starts rolling, and then you get the momentum. The first part of any sort of improvement or change or trying to achieve something you've never done before, the most difficult part is always the beginning. And so having somebody by your side, having that honesty, having that clarity, having that passion, having someone by your side,
yeah.
Do you think you're more likely to get that ball rolling quicker or less likely?
Well,
it's more likely, right?
Yeah.
And the important thing is, whatever the action is more likely to be the right one. Like we said at the beginning, right action at the right time for the right reasons in the right way. Not belting it east towards the mountains when you want to be looking at the sunset over the beach. So, and then you get to step 6, which is take action, which again is why people, step 6, I've waited until step 6 to take action, but you can now understand why. Because you want to be taking the right action.
Yeah.
And step 7 is get celebrated. Because as you know, Jill,
so important, isn't it?
Yeah, the important part is to celebrate the journey, the small wins, any sort of progress. It's not about celebrating just the destination you get to, because as we all really know, once we get to any kind of destination,
we're off on another.
Suddenly, there's another. Exactly. You suddenly realize you're a slightly different person by the time you get there, and there's new opportunities, and you're looking at the world differently. And you go, oh my God, the destination is still amazing, celebrate it. But what you realize is you need to be taking joy from the journey. And again, if you've got somebody by your side to remind you just how far you've come, or when you're feeling like, oh, things aren't working out, and you go, oh, hold on. Do you remember when, like a month ago, when we were sat here and we were doing this and you were in this place? Look how far you've come in just 4 weeks. It's like, oh, well, yeah, I guess so. I guess I just beat myself up because I haven't made much progress in the last 2 days, right?
But it's
like, I don't recognize that progress.
It's the journey is the important part.
It is, because otherwise you go through life just celebrating the milestones.
Yeah.
How many milestones are you going to have in a life? I don't know, if you're 80-year-old, what are you going to have? 8, 10, 20 milestones. What about every single moment in between all the milestones?
Because there is only the moment, isn't there?
There is. It's kind of, we like to add a bit of value, don't we? Like to go off tangents occasionally. But when it comes to this, it's that difference. For me, the way I've kind of looked at this is there's the difference between happiness and joy. So the big moments, the achievements, and they're amazing. And this is why we're here. Incredible. They bring us that happiness.
Yeah.
But we've got to find joy in the journey.
Yeah.
Because the happiness is short-lived. You know, if you achieve anything or get anything, how long does the happiness, that real buzz of happiness, how long does it last?
It's not long. It's not
hours,
long.
days, weeks, maybe months if you're lucky. So what about everything else? So we've got to try and find some joy in the journey. And again, if you're trying to find joy in the journey, what are you doing? You're kind of being honest about everything. Honest about where you are, honest about what's in your life, honest about what you can be grateful for, honest about the progress that you're making. You're recognizing these things. So honesty isn't just your first step, it's the thing that really keeps you on track throughout. And I think that's beautiful.
And it's inspiring.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, this is our lives, right? Your
Yeah.
life, my life, whoever's listening, your life should be inspiring.
Yeah.
As I always say, you should be the hero of your story. If you're feeling like a cameo, like I did for 20 years in your own story, we need to have a talk. We need to get honest about what's going on.
Yeah.
You know, I will, yeah, I'll come on to kind of how we can look at that. But if I was looking at my own journey, I got as honest to say that it sucked, that I didn't like what was going on, but I didn't get honest enough that I would then take the action. And I'll come on to why that's the case. And I think it's the most dangerous part of not being truly honest with yourself. But I mean, let's just take a breather. I'll take a sip. Does that all make sense?
It
And
it does.
anybody watching?
And I would love your opinion on how do you feel about how honest it is to fake it till you make it. And I tell you
Yeah.
why I ask this. I know there are some people being taught to put on Facebook, I make 10K a week or 10K a month or whatever,
Yeah.
even when it's not true, because that is supposedly going to make it true.
Hmm.
And what I'm wondering is, when we're not honest, our body feels it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And whether we do it for a reason that we think is going to create something more, or whether we're just not being honest, our body doesn't know the difference.
No.
So the stress from not being honest is still going through our body, isn't it?
Hmm.
Even if we're doing it for what we think is the right reason, because somebody's told us
Yeah.
that's how you can change it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not a fan. There you go. I'm not a fan of fake it till you make it.
No.
And I think some of it has been maybe manipulated over time about what that means really in a healthy and positive, productive way. Because you're right, if you're literally not being, what's the word, congruent, if you're not living actually if you're not thinking and living in the right space, all the things that you just said, the energy, the stress, and the thing is, I mention this again later on with another example, but you're the only one that's with you 24/7.
Yeah.
You know, you can put a brave face on, you can tell anybody whatever you like out there, but you know the truth. And if you feel like a fraud or a liar, or that, you're just not being congruent or you're not being authentic,
Yeah.
and those values are important to you. I mean, some people, if those values aren't important to them, they'll just do it anyway, right? We're not talking about those. We're talking about conscientious people that have like got morals, ethics, values, that are wanting to do the right thing for the right reasons,
Yeah.
because it fills them up or it is right for them.
Yeah.
If you're just saying all these things and it's not true, then you feel like a fraud. How long will it take for you to really start going downhill when you don't start achieving those things?
Yeah.
Let's say those things take 4 years, 5 years. Often things take a lot longer than we think. How long are you really going to last telling yourself these lies? That's what it is. And
Yeah.
then you're lying out there. And the important thing is with this is people know, people can tell. You think you're hiding it, you think your energy is there, but people know. They can
Oh, yeah.
just sense that something's off. It can
Yeah.
be in the tone of your voice, your body language, how you're looking in your eyes. It can be the actual words you're using. And this is in video, in person, and also in written words. And I've been there when I've been having a bit of a mare, and then I write something, and I think, or I've recorded something, but behind the scenes I'm really distracted, and I'm just like, oh, but I think I've put on a good show, put on a good face, And then I watched it back a week later and go, oh my God, it's obvious, like something's well off, Martin. And even in the written word, I've read it back and gone, it just doesn't sound like you, Martin. You're bringing out all this, whatever it was, angst or frustration or desperation. And it's like, it's an energy. We all know, right? It's energy.
Yeah.
So what I would say with fake it till you make it, really, it's about, well, take the steps. Get honest about where you're at. And if you're not where you want to be, or you're not being the person that you want to be, or you haven't got the business that you want at the moment, you get honest about really where you're at. Really honest. What's working and what's not. And then you go, and where do I want to be? And all we've got to do is then look at the gap. And there's going to be some practical things. If it's a business, for example, there's some very practical strategy and tactics that you do. There are frameworks and things that can help you with that. But in terms of you being that person, you write down, right, in terms of the person I want to be, what does that look like? Not necessarily describe your appearance, but you could do. What kind of clothes am I wearing? Yeah. How do I act? How do I stand? How confident am I? Yeah. Like, really describe that person that you say, oh, that's the person I want to be. And how do they operate around their business, their clients? How are you with your family? How's that relationship you got with your partner and your children? Like, really describe the person that you want to be. And don't beat yourself up about not being that person yet, because you're still a million miles away from where you used to be. So we're just now going, right, we just want to, level up a little bit, but get really clear on that and then figure out some of the things that you can start doing now. So you don't describe that person and then just pretend and fake it. No. You go, well, actually, some of these things, actually, they're really consistent with something, or they're always on time, or they've, whatever it is, when they walk into a room, they ask great questions of everybody. It's not about them. Or look at the traits that you want of that person and start doing it. And it's going to feel a bit awkward at the beginning because it's not what you're used to. But when you start deliberately and intentionally doing that, you start growing into the person that you want to be. You're not faking it until you make it. You're actually being that person. And as you grow in those things, everything else will grow around it. And then before you know it, you'll be that person. And then you'll probably be going, and I want to be this person next. You go on that journey again. So fake it till you make it. No, don't just be false with it, because people will tell and you'll know. But figure out who you want to be and find out some of the things that you can do right now, here and now. There are small shifts, small changes. It could be a morning routine, for example. Maybe your morning routine is completely screwed up at the moment, and you never feel like your day sets off on the right note. It's like, well, the person I want to be, they wake up and they work out straight away, or they make time for their family straight away. They've taken care, before they even look at their phone, they've had their breakfast, they've had their shower, they've spent family time together, and then they're ready to enter the world of everything else and let that in. Just simple things like that, and all of a sudden you've taken more control of your day and you set yourself up for the day. It's like, that's how this version of me I would like to start the day with. Well, you can do that now if you give it the time just to figure out what that is and be honest about what that looks like, and the fact that you're not doing it right now. It's like, well, I could do that.
It's getting I'm going to give it a week yourself.
And I'm going to start.
It's getting to know yourself really well.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And
I there seems to be that we don't spend time getting to know ourselves.
Yeah, well, we're so busy, right? We're busy doing this and busy doing that, and we're getting pulled from pillar to post and meeting that person's expectations, and we've got several hats on. We're being the business owner or the coach, or we're being the speaker or the author, or we're being the partner, we're being the dad or the mom, we're being the boyfriend, the girlfriend, the wife, the husband, the uncle, the niece, like all the labels that we've got in the world. We're trying to be all of these things, aren't we? And it's a lot, right? It's a lot. So let's just kind of just simplify it and just be honest about ourselves. Like we said, what do you think about yourself when you're by yourself? If you want to answer that question, like, it's probably going to get a little bit emotional. It probably feel a bit uncomfortable because you're going to be honest about some of the stuff that you're not doing that doesn't align with your values. You're like, actually, I want to be this person, and I know in my heart of hearts I am that person, but I'm just kind of acting in this way at the moment. And then there's another example where we'll stack up some examples of how these things, when we don't follow through on those little promises that we keep to ourselves, I call them the I'm gonnas. Let's have a think. We're going to do it right now, right? I was going to save this one for later. I call it the I'm gonnas, and I think it has a massive impact on the quality of our life. And what I mean by the I'm gonnas is, I'm going to do this today. I'm going to do this week. I'm going to do this year, this month. And it can be, and really it's the day-to-day stuff. And it could be simple stuff. I'm going to mow the lawn today. I'm going to wash the car today. I'm going to do the washing today. I'm going to do the washing up today. I'm going to put the Hoover over today. I'm going to do the dusting today. I'm going to get home a little bit earlier today so I can spend it with the family. I'm going to have tea with my family today. We did bedtime story with my children today. These are starting to be bigger things, more important things. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. When we follow through on those things, brilliant, wonderful. Let's celebrate. Step 7, celebrate the success, right?
Yeah.
But what I've observed in myself and others, we have an awful lot of I'm gonnas that we don't follow through on. And we get to the end of the day and we beat ourselves up about it. We might not really chastise ourselves about it, but it'd be just that moment. Oh, meant to do that today. I was going to do that today. Didn't. Oh, I'll try and do that tomorrow. And then you don't do it tomorrow. And by the end of the week, but these things build up. One thing in isolation, I'm not, I don't mow the lawn today. Inconsequential, right? You go, well, I could do it tomorrow. Grass grows a little bit longer. But the grass, and then maybe not getting home, a little bit earlier, and then not spending the time you want to, and then maybe not going for that run, or not working out, or not going for that walk that you wanted to do, or not phoning your friend like you wanted to do and check in on somebody, or not sending that email or making that call in your business, or all these I'm gonnas that you then don't follow through on. I think they're so dangerous, because you then, just that moment where you then think about it, you go, oh, I was going to do that today. It's not positive energy, is it? You might not absolutely beat yourself up, but when you've got 10, 20, 30 of those things flying through your brain every week or every month, they kind of stay with you. You've got that energy in you where you're going, yeah, you're the kind of person that doesn't follow through, even if there's other stuff that you do.
But what if you're the kind of person that writes yourself too long of too many I'm going to do?
There you go.
For the time
that
it's possible.
Yeah.
And then you don't celebrate the things that you have done. You only focus on what you've missed out.
Spot on, right? Spot on. Because the observation on all of this is these things build up, and then it becomes your identity without you even knowing it. But the chances are you've got too long a list anyway. Yeah. It was unmanageable. It was unreasonable. And some of these things, and some things might not matter as much as other things, but you still give them the same weight of like beating yourself up. But the chances are you've got too many things on your list anyway. It's like the blueprint for life. It's like when it comes to having a good quality of life, when it kind of like comes to happiness and joy.
Jo says she writes a list of what she's done.
Yeah, so you can go, yeah, done that, celebrate it, right? Yeah. Because some of us like to do that because it's a visual reminder, and it's like you put in the pen to paper and go, yeah, you can really feel that then.
Yeah.
very often we've got too long a list though. And you kind of call it the blueprint to your life. So, and it's like, well, in order for me to be happy, in order for me to be productive, in order for me to be fulfilled or live the life that I want to, I've got to do this. I'm going to do this. You've got this massive list that you're never going to reach. And even if, like you said, even if you had 32 things on that list, ridiculous, and you knocked off 30, you'd still beat yourself up about the 2 that you didn't do, and you wouldn't give yourself the credit.
Yeah.
And therefore, you're setting yourself up for misery, right? So so part of this kind of observation and this honesty about, right, well, how many I'm gonnas have I got? Actually, which ones are really important to me? Which are the ones that I really need to follow up on these. If I say I'm going to be home earlier and have tea with my family and read bedtime stories to my children, you know what? Nothing needs to get in the way of that. And you need to be that person that is, right, that. And then maybe some of the other I'm gonnas, they can go by the wayside. They could be scheduled for another time. But you just really hone it down into, well, what's my absolutely essential 3 I'm gonnas today? And make sure you do them. Rather than having your list of 30 that you carry in a big bag on a rucksack on your back that just keeps getting bigger and heavier and heavier. And before you know it, you're this person that you don't want to be. And I've just noticed this over this last year. It keeps coming up in terms of these I'm gonnas, and it doesn't seem much in the moment. But all of a sudden, you're not following up on things, and then you suddenly got a massive list, and you're wondering why you feel a little bit off, and you feel a bit frustrated, and you're not feeling like you're productive. And it's like, well, because look, look at all this that you're holding. Man, you don't want to be holding that. You know, we need to do something about that, and we need to be honest about what that looks like, and then do some work.
Yeah.
And use the
don't you
steps.
think sometimes you have to change expectations with yourself? And I can give an example of this where we used to live, I could spend a couple of hours out in the garden and I've swept everything, cut grass, power washed, whatever.
Oh, now you're talking.
In a couple of hours.
Yeah.
Now we've got a bigger area out here. And I would go out and I'd think, I will power wash all the way around this morning.
Yeah.
And it didn't work.
No.
Because it was a much bigger area.
It was much bigger.
And in fact, I started thinking, oh, something is wrong. You know, I've gone really slow.
Yeah.
Why am I so slow? And it was all looking at me. And and a guy came the once and did it. And he started at something like 9:30 in the morning. And he didn't finish until 6 o'clock in the afternoon. And he had an industrial power washer.
Yeah, don't be care.
You know.
And you thought you could do it in 2 hours.
And I was thinking, and I thought, wow, if it took him that long with the kit he's got and the fact that he's doing it all the time, I have to realign my expectations of me.
Yeah.
And since I've done that and I break it down into chunks, I will do that bit and then I will do that bit and I break it down.
Yeah.
It's doable.
Yeah.
I can celebrate that bit's being done.
Yeah.
And not get caught up in the fact of why didn't I get more done?
Yeah. And that is a beautiful analogy for really anything in life where we're trying to make, again, changes or improvements or achieve things. They're all made up of actions, of steps, of things that we're going to do. So you just chunk it down. You can't go from the starting point to the finish line in one leap. So it's always chunk it up into small things that you can do, that you can then take pride in, that you can celebrate, and then you move to the next one. So that's a beautiful an analogy for how you should be approaching anything. When we said, was it step 5, get planning with that person by your side. You're planning the steps, but you're not planning this step that's going to take you 10 years to master. You're doing the step that's you're going to be focusing on over the next week or two, or the next month. And we're going to take some pride in that, and we're going to celebrate that. So we chunk it down. So really, really important. And expectations is,
and revisit it, isn't it?
It is,
Have things grown bigger, so my chunks need to be changed. There needs to be more chunks now, because to try to do everything in the same amount of chunks is not realistic.
Yeah. And let's okay, let's use this example from recently. So where my business has been growing, I'm going to be honest with you, I was getting a little frustrated with a certain bit of the business that usually I enjoy, and I'm doing it, but it just wasn't going as quickly as I wanted, and I didn't complete it as quickly. Just like your power washing, I didn't complete it in the time that I thought it would. This thing that I thought would take about a week, it's 3 weeks later and it's still not quite finished. I'm like, you then start beating yourself up. You go, oh God, it must be me. And well, I'm not sleeping because of my shoulder, and I can't really focus. And you go inwards because you start blaming yourself. And then the reason we have people in our lives, like coaches and mentors, they go, well, let's have a little bit of perspective, Martin. You've spent your time doing this and this and this and this, which is all the great stuff that is growth, and all the opportunities you're getting and all the conversations you're having, which wiped out days out of your schedule. And you're wondering why you're not doing what you was in the same way, in the same time that you had before all this other stuff. So it's like you just need to then organize and go, lessen the pressure on yourself and go, well, as long as it's done as part of the business, brilliant. But this really exciting stuff's happening over here. And as it grows, we need to then figure out, well, how do we grow with that? And what time do we spend doing certain things? And maybe we've got to do it in a slightly different way, or maybe we've got to get somebody in to help. That's a beautiful challenge to have. But unless we step back, unless we get some perspective on it, unless we then get honest about what's going on, then we start going inwards and start beating ourselves up as if we need more of that.
Exactly. Isn't it? Yeah.
And I like the thing about you said expectations, because whenever I hear expectations, it always reminds me of Christmas, right? That's a weird thing. But as you may know, Jill, Christmas is my favorite time of year. And for years, it was always about having the ideal Christmas, especially when I was in the corporate world. Bear in mind, everything was falling apart, right? I was in a hell of a state, but I still wanted the family to have this ideal Christmas. And my expectations of the Christmas were like up here.
Yeah.
And then when anything, just a small thing, didn't quite go, and my expectation was, because of where I was, like emotionally, I'd lose it. I'd be so like down, and I'd be distraught, as if like Christmas was ruined, like as if the Grinch had come along and stolen it. But it was just like this little thing hadn't happened. But everything else was okay. But my expectations were so high. And what I've learned over time is reduce your expectations, but still have high standards. So you can hold yourself to a high standard, right? Hold yourself to account. That's great. That's responsible behavior. That's great. Above the line behavior, we call it.
Yeah.
But be wary of expectations, because if anything doesn't meet that expectation, a bit like our blueprint for life, when we've got all these things that we're going to do, when that doesn't happen, it can have a real emotional effect on us. And then if we're not careful, we start blaming ourselves. It's like, whoa. You expected that thing to happen, and it was never going to happen in a million years. You might have had an ideal that it was going to happen, but it wasn't going to happen. Or this person over here, you expected them to react or respond in a certain way, and they didn't. And then you're like, whoa, what's going on there? And it can have all kinds of impacts when our expectations aren't met. So
Yeah.
I just learned to just lower your expectations, but still have high standards. And
Yeah.
that's served me well at Christmas, because we just go dial it all down. And sometimes the most amazing things happen because they're spontaneous, not planned.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when your expectations are reduced, so you haven't planned every minute thing and then it all goes pear shaped because one thing didn't happen, like when you just reduce all of that, you have this freedom to just live in a better space. And it's
Yeah.
beautiful. So yeah, really, I didn't think we were going to talk about that, but that really important.
Yeah.
I love it.
And it's still part of being honest, isn't it?
It is. Yeah.
Jo said she thinks expectations are closely linked to self-compassion.
Mm-hmm. Let's think about that one.
Is
Yeah, they are. If we just use the examples where if we have a certain expectation and then it's not met, and then we beat ourselves up
yeah,
because it's not met. And by the way, that thing was probably completely, utterly out of our control.
yeah,
Then we start beating ourselves up. Well, that's not being very having that self-compassion for ourselves, is it?
no,
It's like we need to recognize that, okay, it didn't happen. Even if we do have them, it's like, okay, it didn't happen, but is it the end of the world? No. Does life carry on? Yeah. Is there something maybe we could do instead of it? Or does it lead to another opportunity? Or what have we learned for next
yeah,
time? And not take it personally, have that self-compassion to go, well, okay, didn't quite work out. It's like the conversation you'd have around failure. So again, the fear of failure in the corporate world, massive.
yeah,
Because if you were to make a mistake or you were to fail at something, you'd be marked down in your performance review. If you're marked down in your performance review, you'd be out in the next restructure. If you're out in the next restructure, oh my goodness, I can't pay the bills. I'm going to lose the house. I'll lose my family. I'll be broken. And people think that's just like, oh, whatever. That's a bit dramatic, Martin. But I can tell you now, that was my story for years.
yeah,
That fear drove me. So that's kind of what we can, that's kind of what happens when it all gets a bit out of control.
mm.
Um, so anyway, yeah, it's got a fascinating subject. Getting
Yeah,
honest. Who would have thought getting honest would bring up all of this, right?
yeah.
It's
It's tied into so much, isn't it?
yeah, it is. Yeah. But yeah, that self-compassion, the expectations, fear of, that's what I was saying about the fear of failure. I don't believe in failure. People use the word, but it's like,
Oh, I
I don't believe
dislike
in it.
it.
I literally go, well, you've learned something.
I really dislike the word failure.
You and me, if we could fist bump, there it is, boom, right? Yeah, I don't like it because, and you say, well, you only fail if you stop and you give up. But anything you're learning, all you've done is you've done something,
Yeah,
and as
you've
a
done
result of you
something.
doing something, or indeed not doing something, something's happened or not happened. So you've then learned as a result of this has happened. So
Yeah,
what have I learned? It might not have gone the way, like we said about the expectations. It might not have gone the way you thought it was, but treat it like a hypothesis. If I do this might happen. Okay, it did. Brilliant. We will move forward. Oh, it didn't. What can I learn? And if I want to do it again, what can I learn about doing it better next time? Or I might have learned something to go, I don't want to do that again.
yeah,
And that's okay. And if you
yeah,
treat it like a game, then it kind of just releases all that pressure and that tension and that stress and that angst that we can feel, which, and I know it can be difficult, especially if you're like in the corporate world or you're in cultures or environments where that's just how it is. To break free of that is really tricky. To operate in that can be tricky, not impossible,
mm,
but tricky, especially if you don't have any support or somebody helping you and guiding you.
yeah,
But it is possible. But then you'd also have to be honest with yourself and go, well, do I want to be here in the first place?
yeah, yeah.
You
I
know,
mean, if when you think, which is where your why comes into it, isn't it? You know,
yeah,
it's like if you look at anything, if you look at if you look in a list of plumbers near me or something like that,
Yeah.
there's hundreds.
Yeah.
And if you looked at it on the face of it and said, oh, I really want to be a plumber, and everybody said, but look how many people are already doing it here.
Yeah.
And it was only something like that you thought, oh, what can I do? Oh, I'll be a plumber. That's good money. I'll make good money if I'm a plumber. I got no real interest in it. I don't really,
Yeah.
but it's something I can do. And then somebody says, you've got hundreds of people in the area all doing it. And then you think, oh, gosh, that doesn't seem so good. But if you've got this driving desire to be a plumber, the fact all those people in the area are doing it won't matter.
No.
Because it's about you wanting to do it. It's this, oh, I've got to be a plumber.
Yeah, it's your ooh. I like that. That's what it is. The ooh. It is. It's your passion. It's your purpose. It's your. If you don't give this a shot, you're going to regret it.
Yes.
And coming back to that, like looking back on your life in your final hours and your final days, looking back on your life, and what are you going to regret? You don't regret the stuff you did. You regret the stuff you didn't do, the stuff that you didn't go out there and live authentically, or the relationship you didn't have, or the business you didn't start, or the impact you didn't have, the time you didn't spend with your family. It's those things. So if there's something that's like in your heart, then you just go out and do it. And the important thing is, if you've got that much passion, you're going to do a great job.
I'm laughing. Joe has asked me, did I have a driving desire to be a driving instructor? Well, I didn't know I did until I saw an advert with BSM to train to be a driving instructor. And I thought, I'd really love doing that.
Yes.
I'm going to find out more. So I didn't know, it wasn't something that was always there with me. I always loved driving. I always loved cars. And I never cared what the car was like. It was, as long as it went and I could go, I loved the car. It didn't matter what it looked like. But it was only when I found out about it that I felt my passion.
Yeah. And what was it then? So it's not about the car, is it?
No.
So what was it about driving, teaching people to drive that lit you up? What was that?
I love driving, being able to get in a car and go.
Yeah.
Wherever I want to go, when I want to go.
Yeah.
And not ask anybody else to take me, and just have that independence of just going. And I had cards off people years later. One lady sent me a card saying she'd gone to Australia and how many hundreds of miles she'd driven while she was there.
Awesome.
And really amazing things like
that. It was the independence and the freedom that it gives you.
Yes.
And then you also know that if you're there helping other people drive, you're imparting that kind of freedom and independence in them too.
Yeah, that's what Joe said. I was teaching freedom. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was funny because, I taught all ages.
Yeah.
And
it didn't matter though, did it?
It didn't matter.
No.
And they were all, and I remember saying to one young guy, and he was a very impatient young man that got him into quite a bit of trouble when he was learning. I can remember because he didn't want to be in a line at lights, he went into the right-hand lane.
Right.
And I said to him, I haven't asked you to turn right. And I could see him looking at the car next to him. And I said, don't you dare try and race them off on the lights and go straight ahead. We are now turning right. And I said to him, because I had to pass him on to somebody else because I was just going to teach automatic then. He was learning in manual. And I said to him, when you've passed, I said, you keep doing it right. If I see you out on the road and you're not doing it right, I'm going to follow you and tell you off.
Yeah.
And I saw him months later in the car, and he always wanted a BMW, and he was in a BMW full of boys. And you know, boys are really funny, aren't they? And he was
We are. Yeah.
turning right into a car park, and he saw me coming up the road towards him, and he had plenty of time to turn, and he turned, and he was looking at me, and he was doing this, you know, really showing, look, I'm passing the wheel.
Yeah. Look at me. Mirrors.
Yeah, he was
Yeah.
exaggerating everything, you know, and it's really funny, like, you're not coming after me, I'm doing it.
Like he was on stage. Yeah. Big. Let's do it big. Such a difference. It's brilliant. And your story there in terms of that why is a bit like my story in terms of like that coming out of corporate. I had no desires to be a coach or a speaker or a mentor or like that wasn't. I didn't wake up one morning and go, I need to be that.
Mm.
It was my passion and my purpose to go, I want to share my story. I want to share my life lessons. I want to help people, right? Being a coach or a speaker or a mentor or whatever, that's just the vehicle. That's just the label that you put on me helping people. I always say that I don't care what you call me. You call me your coach, your mentor, your trainer, your sounding board, the guy that you get together with every couple of weeks and talk things through with. I really don't care. And I've got some colourful names from some of my clients as to what they call me. But because it doesn't matter. What matters is I'm helping somebody. It's the passion, the purpose, the why behind it. And for you, that driving, it wasn't about the car. It wasn't about the test. It wasn't about the mechanics of it all. It was about freedom. It was about imparting that into other people and knowing that if they've got that, man, it changes lives.
Yeah.
And look what you can do and where you can go and what you can see as a result. It's like that. And when we're from the heart with that kind of stuff, man, it changes how you look at life.
Yeah.
You know, and I just love giving people just a glimpse of that.
Yeah.
You know,
and it's
so
funny what can hinder, because I remember somebody she was doing a refresher lessons with me because she hadn't driven for a number of years, and she'd bought a car, and the thing that was stopping her from getting in her car and going anywhere was the fact that every time she went outside, she saw all the curtains going of her neighbours to watch her get in the car and go. And I said to her, there's a really easy thing to do. I said, go out several times a day for as many days as it takes, get in the car, sit in the car, read the handbook, get to know the car. Don't even worry about starting it. Lock it up, go back inside.
Yeah.
I said, after a certain number of days of you doing that, they're going to be so bored with you getting in the car and not going anywhere. They're not going to watch anymore.
Yeah.
And I said, on the day when you think today's the day, I said, you'll go. And they'll probably have missed it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what you did.
Yeah. I mean, so many little things can trip us up. So we're so conscious of what people might think or see or do or whatever it is. And we just got to be real with ourselves. You know, again, get back to purpose, get honest, get clear, get passionate, get help. Because that's, you know, again, that's part of your journey in terms of driving school, you know, you with help. And if there are little obstacles, if there are little things that come up, and this is the beauty again of having somebody by your side when these little niggles come up, and they do for everybody, me included, you've got somebody to talk it through with and just get some perspective and maybe a little bit of guidance on how you can deal with it.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's big stuff and you might need a breakthrough, which is, I love doing the breakthrough stuff and really going down into that. But sometimes it's just simple things like that. Just, well, you just need to do this on repeat for a week and you ain't even going to bother about it. And nobody else is going to bother about it. And actually, what often happens is what you think people are paying attention, they're really not.
No.
So in this case, for your driving person, then they were the old curtain twitchers.
Yeah.
But they only do that for a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
Because they're nosy. But very often, people are so busy in their own lives and worrying about themselves and figuring things out, and so that they're not paying attention as much as we would like to think they are. And we've got to kind of get over that as well, because it's like, oh God, especially if you like doing social media in your business or whatever, it's like, oh, nobody's paying attention. They are, they're seeing it. But if you drop off for a couple of days, honestly, the world's not going to end.
No.
And they're not going to be knocking on your door going, where's that post that you do at 12 o'clock? It's like, they're not really like that. So just go out there and live the life that you want to live, like we said, without the regrets.
Yeah.
Can I take us to Finesville?
Yes.
Finesville and Sucksville.
Yeah.
I think this might help with because all we're talking about is that taking that action but doing it in an honest way, whatever it is. And we've had so many great examples. And if I was to bring this to life in this kind of way, it's like, we've all been to Finesville. And people look at me as if I'm stupid, right? And it's like, what the heck are you talking about, in Finesville? Well, how are you doing? I'm fine. How's work? I'm fine. How's the family? Fine. How's your health? Fine. I'm fine. Fine. We've all been to Finesville, whether we've actually are fine, or indeed when we're not fine, but we just tell people we're fine, right? That's what I mean about Finesville. So we've all been literally in Finesville, or we pretended to be. So if this is Finesville, and for want of a better phrase, this is Sucksville, right? Because when life sucks, and I'm not saying that your life sucks, and it could be something in between, whatever, right? But let's just use it. Here's Finesville, here's Sucksville. Is it possible that the actions that if you want to improve where you are, from Sucksville or Finesville, is it possible that the actions you would take, or the order in which you would take the actions, or the intensity in which you would take the actions, would be different if you're starting at Finesville versus Sucksville? They're going to be quite different, aren't they?
Yeah.
I mean, they might be the same sorts of things, but if you're at Sucksville, then there's a lot to unpick about what sucks, right? Yeah. Whereas if things are actually, things are okay, like you've got a more positive foundation on which to build. You haven't got quite as much to unpick. But if we just kid ourselves, so if we go around saying, oh, we're fine, and we kid ourselves that we're fine, yeah, you can get some clarity about where you want to get to. Yeah, you can get passionate about where you want to get to. You can even get somebody in to help you. But if they don't challenge you on whether you're fine or not, the actions you're going to take, you'll start taking actions that they just won't work. And you'll get frustrated that they're not working, because really your starting point's here, not here. And I think it's like, I said it before, it's like building on sand. If you're not honest about where your starting point is, well, the clarity, the passion, the getting the help, the planning, the action you take, even the celebration, it all falls apart. Yeah. Because you're not where you need to be. And using, let's use the sat nav example again. We've been talking about driving. It's like, it would be like saying, right, okay, I put my destination in, but because we're not being honest, we put the starting point 50 miles away from where we're at. Yeah. Like 50 miles down the road, you've got a nice route from 50 miles down to the road to your destination. How the heck are you going to get from here to 50 miles down the road? You need to tackle that bit first. And that's your first step. So I just use it as kind of an example to try and just bring it to life, to go, we need to be honest, because if we're not, we're in all kinds of trouble. Yeah. You're in the wrong destination. And what I also having a conversation about this the other day, and I was reminded that if you're genuinely at Finesville, and just using this as a crazy example, you're in Finesville, so things are fine. You want to improve it, so you want to get to Greatsville, right? You want things to be great, and whatever that is, it might be in business or relationships or finances or health or whatever it might be. You want to go to Greatsville. Well, here's the thing: if you're not being honest, if you're saying, "Oh yeah, everything's fine," right? In my experience, people who are actually at Sucksville, they see people in Greatsville, and it really grates, right? They don't want anything to do with it because it's like, oh, it's all right for them, whatever, you know, because your life is like, it sucks. You're wallowing. You want to get to Finesville. You don't want to get to Greatsville, right? Because Greatsville kind of gets on your nerves, and it looks so impossible to achieve from your starting point.
Yeah.
So don't kid yourself. Just if it sucks, it sucks. If it's like it's not quite Finesville, it's okay, but it's not quite where I want it to be. Great. Just be honest about it. Otherwise, you dismantle any kind of improvement or change that you can make. And I know it's difficult. I know it gets emotional. I know it can be uncomfortable, but it's the starting point, and it's really important. And one of the most, I think, one of the most dangerous things.
Don't you think the people that we see in Greatsville, if we're in Sucksville,
Yeah.
we don't know where they started.
Yeah. And you see this all the time in the personal development space, right? And again, Martin, you've done the same. You've said where you were, your life sucked. You know, you go, oh yeah, but you did have, yeah, but I was, you know, I was going to, you know, end my life. So things were not all right. People if they're in Greatsville, they'll use their story to try to inspire other people. And they'll say, oh, it used to be this, and it used to be that, and I used to be that. But picking up a little bit of what you said earlier about, it's not quite fake it till you make it, but their backstory isn't quite Sucksville, but they kind of make it out to be Sucksville.
Oh yeah.
But you're like, well, that's ridiculous. It's like if you've got no money and you're financially really struggling, and then somebody said, yeah, I didn't have any money either, and then I did this £200,000. I got all the credit cards together, and I got all these loans together, and I raised £200,000 so that I could do this thing. And you're sat there going, what planet do you live on? Right? The poor person with no money, whose credit rating's gone through the floor, and like they can't raise that kind of money. So you can't, you know, you can't. No, it's not even you can't empathize. You can't see that.
No.
And you're like, well, no, your starting point
you can't
isn't
connect, can you?
That's right. The connection isn't there. So sometimes even the well-meaning people will say these stories, and because it's true, it's still their journey, but they have to make sure it's the right audience and that they're meeting people where they're at, not necessarily where they were. So I think there's a lot about that. There is a lot about that. It kind of reminds me, if you're in Sucksville, because I was going to say that I think the most dangerous thing about all of this, about not being honest with ourselves, the most dangerous thing is that, you know, when we talk about like psychology or whatever, and we say that what you think you become. So like if you keep saying you're not good enough, or you're not good at something, or I'm not confident, or I'm rubbish at tech, or I can't drive the car, or whatever it is, right? You keep telling yourself that, you just become that, don't you? You start believing it because your brain isn't going to challenge you on that. It's just going to believe what you keep telling it. Well, there's an interesting thing that I've observed, again, in my own experience and with others, that when we've, again, taken the Finesville kind of approach, if we kid ourselves that things are fine, but in reality, we know they're not. So we kind of like, yeah, everything's fine, it's fine. And we don't change anything in our life to like change anything or improve anything. We just kind of like, yeah, it's fine, but really it sucks. Yeah, it's fine, but it really sucks. But we're not doing anything to try to take any action to improve it, what tends to happen, we keep lying to ourselves that actually, you know, it's fine, it's fine. Instead of us, like in the other example where we start believing that it will be fine, we don't do that. What we do is we normalize where we are. I think this is the most dangerous thing that we can do, because it kind of sucks. And I did this for years. It's like, I know this sucks.
Joe has said Stuckville is a place.
Stucksville. I've
So
got a new.
would
so
you
going to draw this map.
That is Stuckville?
That is Stucksville. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
You're in Stucksville, and the dangerous thing about Stucksville is you start believing that it can't change. You believe, you will rationalize, you will validate where you're at. And I see this in the corporate world. So you have a leader or a manager, or as business owners, and we'll go, and they're stressed and they're overwhelmed, they're exhausted, they haven't got the balance, they're not seeing their family, all of that kind of stuff. And they'll say, well, that's just the way it is. It's gone on for so long that they've just gone, well, this is, yeah, it's fine, but it's not fine. It sucks. I don't like it. They haven't got honest enough to actually do anything about it. They start normalizing it. They go, well, at my level in this organization, with this level of responsibility and being paid this much money, this is just how it is. I can't expect to have balance in my life, and I got to expect an awful lot of stress. And I ain't going to be overwhelmed because there's a lot to do. And I ain't going to be exhausted because I'm working really long hours. But this is just how it is at this level. And if you're a business owner, you go, well, it's all on me. You know, what can I do? Of course, I'm not going to have the balance that I wanted. And you start justifying the fact that it sucks, and you normalize it, and then you don't do anything about it. In fact, you start believing you can't do anything about it. I ain't making it up, because I did it. This is something, you know, I did it for years. I knew it sucked. I hated it. The amount of conversations I had about, I just hate the way my life is right now. Not my family, but just the work and how it was all, the effects having on me. But I didn't change it, because it was like, well, this is all I know. And at this level, and I'm looking around going, well, everyone else has got their stuff together. At this level, this is just how it has to be. And obviously, I've just got to keep it to myself, because I don't want to fail, or I don't want to be seen to be making a mistake, or like I can't cope. And you normalize it. I think it's the most dangerous thing you can do when you're not truly being honest enough for you to get uncomfortable. And I mean, I was uncomfortable in terms of my mental health, but uncomfortable enough for you to go, enough is enough. I'm done with this. I'm not prepared to stand for this anymore. Again, apply this to whatever area of life you want to improve or change or achieve something in. You've got to get to that point where you get uncomfortable with it. You got emotional about it, and you just go, no, that's it. Enough. Because then you've got your solid foundation. You're not pretending it's Finesville. You're not pretending it's not even Finesville, but this is just how it is. You're just like, this is not my life. All the things that we talked about earlier, this is not my values. This is not who I am. This isn't my purpose. I don't even know what my purpose or passion is, but I know it's not this. And you know what? I can't carry on like this. You know, it's affecting my health. It's affecting my relationships. It's affecting, you know, who I want to be. You get to that depth when you're by yourself. What do you think about yourself? What do you think about your life? And yeah, I'm not saying like everyone's life sucks. So it's take the example of wherever you're at and go deep and get really, you know, for want of a better word, disturbed about your inaction. And how long have you been leaving this? How long has this been going on? It could be your health, or it could be your relationship or your business, whatever. How long has it been going on? What opportunities haven't you had as a result? What's the difference in your relationship as a result of you not improving this thing or changing this thing or taking control of it and going, you know what? No more. I'm going to do this. That is the depth of honesty that is required, I believe, anyway, for certainly medium to big changes or improvements or achievements that we want in our life. We have to have that, otherwise we just won't do it. No. Because then we can then get into the clarity and the passion and all that kind of stuff. But it starts with that level of honesty. Now but if you get that level of honesty with even the small stuff, well, you're rocketing, right? You just you're just more congruent with yourself. You just being that version of yourself, and maybe next version of yourself is about, you know what, I'm just gonna be honest with myself. When I don't like something, I'm gonna pick myself up on it. When I don't follow through on something, I'm gonna pick myself up on it. If I'm in a culture that I don't support, I'm going to pick myself up on it. If I'm with certain people that just bring me down rather than lift me up, I'm going to do something about it. If this health that I've got right now, I don't like it. It needs to be at another level. I'm going to do something about it. My finances suck. I'm going to do something about it. Whatever it is, have that depth of passion in your honesty, because when you've got that, that's when the magic's going to happen. That's when the change and the improvement's going to happen.
Yeah.
And then you start, like I said, the 7 steps: get honest, get clear, get passionate, get help, get planning, take action, get celebrating. All of that becomes possible in a way that you're doing the right things at the right time for the right reasons in the right way.
Yeah.
All because you got honest. You don't want to get honest, those other things are going to fall by the wayside. You're going to be full of frustration, or heaven forbid you normalize where you're at, and then you just don't change at all. At best, you're just miserable, right? And you just live that shell of a life that you could have. At worst, well, you don't want my path that I went down, because these things build up over time. Stucksville, I like Stuck. I don't like Stucksville, but I like the notion of Stucksville. My experience of Stucksville, like if you're stressed, overwhelmed, or whatever, for example, or you just don't feel like anything's moving or improving, things don't stay the same. People think if I don't make any improvements, things are just going to stay the same.
But they don't.
They don't. They get worse because of all the stuff we've talked about, all that build up in ourselves, all that. It's not improving. It's not changing. I'm not following through. All those little promises we make to ourselves, all the I'm gonnas that we don't do, all the honesty that we haven't done, all the clarity we haven't got, all the help that we're resisting reaching out for, all of that builds up and builds up and builds up to more guilt, more resentment, more stress, more pressure. We just don't need that in our lives. And the honesty really can set us free. We said about freedom in the car, right?
Yeah.
But it's honesty sets us free to then go and try and build the life that we want and make the improvements, changes, achievements in whatever area of life that we want. And I don't know if you've noticed, I'm quite passionate about this, because it's the foundation of it all, but it's just not talked about. I certainly don't hear many people talking about the importance of honesty.
No. And do you
We
know
talk
what
about
I think?
authenticity in like marketing or whatever, but when it comes to ourselves and really what we want, who we want to be, how do we create our best life, whatever that looks like for you, that honesty conversation, I don't hear much about it. So I'm really pleased that we've had this conversation today. And I certainly hope it's helped.
And do you know what I think goes hand in hand with the honesty as well? Is owning it.
Owning it. Yes.
You know? Being honest and then owning it.
Yeah. I kind of mentioned it earlier, I think, in terms of above the line behavior. So there's above and below the line behavior. So above the line behavior, is taking responsibility, owning it, taking accountability for it. So you're responsible for that. You're going to go, right, yeah. If it was a mistake, or whether it's your life right now, or whatever it is, you go, yeah, I'm owning it. Below the line behavior is where we're pointing fingers, where there's always a reason, or there's an excuse, or there's some blame. They're not great. We all go below the line at times, but the aim is to try and be above the line more often than not. Because then we're really owning our own experience. We're taking ownership of our own life. And for as long as it's kind of that one of those pillars of an extraordinary life I talk about. You know, not letting the first pillar is well, the pillar is not letting the outside world dictate your happiness and your quality of life.
Yeah.
So when we're out there going, oh, I'm not where I want to be because of him and that and that and the economy and the politicians and the conspiracy theory and the drama and the, well, it's like you're not taking control of your own life, because the other part of an extraordinary life is life on your terms. You have to, you define how you want to live your life. This is your life. I said, be the hero of your story. What does that look like? And if you're not feeling like the hero of your story, get honest about, right, well, why is that? You know, what does it look like right now? And what do I want it to look like?
Yeah.
And start owning that and going, you know what? I got one life. I know I'm on my 7th chance of life, right? But we tend to get one life. You don't want, I'll repeat it again because it's so important. You don't want the regrets. Those end days, whenever they may come, you don't want to be looking back going, oh, I wish I'd done this.
Yeah.
No. You know, you've been given this beautiful, incredible gift of life. It's like the trillions of things over billions of years that needed to align in order for us to be here. Right, you and me, right here. And if like one thing was different, if something in our family tree was different, if somebody got up late in our ancestry, right, and they changed their routine, we wouldn't be here. It's like it's you don't have to like truly understand how
huge.
incredible that is, right? Because I don't think we can get our heads around it. It's like if the sun wasn't exactly where it is and the earth wasn't exactly where it is, if it wasn't spinning exactly how it's spinning and the speed it's spinning, and if the moon wasn't exactly where it was doing its thing, right, we wouldn't be here. This stuff is miraculous. You don't have to understand it because it's just so big. But if you can just take a glimpse and go, man, this is my life. It's whatever a chance of me being here, I'm gonna make the most of it. And yeah, there's a lot of crazy stuff out there in the world, and there's a lot of stuff that, you know, we don't agree with and all that kind of stuff. But there's also an amazing world out there.
Yeah.
Incredible,
And we don't
beautiful.
have to be part of those things that we don't agree with, do we?
No, if you don't like them, don't pay attention to them. It's why I don't read or watch the news. I'm not interested in that. When was the last time you watched the news and went, oh my goodness, that was the most amazing thing ever? Come and see the news. It's this amazing story. It doesn't happen, right? No. So if it doesn't serve you, if it doesn't light you up, don't entertain it. Life on your terms, right?
Yeah.
And do everything you can to then define who you want to be and how you want to live. You're not going to get your way all the time. It's not about that. No. But if more often than not, you're living in a way that you feel like, yeah, this is kind of my best self. I'm heading in the right direction, at least. I'm experiencing life on a level that maybe I didn't before. It's worth the work.
It is. It's
worth sitting there and getting really honest about where you're at. And that's your starting point. And then if you want, you know, if anybody, obviously you or I, if anybody wanted to talk about any of this, that sat there going, oh my goodness, I don't know where to start, but I do want to be honest, then just reach out. You know, this is why we're here, to help with that process. And there's nothing more fulfilling than just seeing somebody go from that kind of, oh man, oh, I'm not quite sure, and I'm made for more, but oh, and then start making the progress towards it, because they've just unlocked some of those beliefs that have been holding them back, and the stories, and they've got a bit more clarity. But most importantly, they've got honest about where they're at, and they're willing to admit and take ownership, like you said, and go, you know what? It's not what I wanted it to be, right? This isn't what I signed up for. I'm willing to do something about it. I don't know what, I don't know how, but all of that comes in the process. Yeah. You know, but you've got to start with right, enough's enough. I'm done. I want to build a better life, you know, a life on my terms. And for a lot of people, this isn't just like throwing your entire life up in the air and like recreating everything. That's not what this is. Very often it's about just some small shifts about how we're going about our day-to-day life. You know, for my clients, it's about that balance between work, because they want to do work. They want to make a difference with the work they do. They're just working too darn hard and too long. They're not spending time with their family, not enjoying life. So
Mm.
we just need, what are the strategies and stuff? What's the shift in mindset that we've got? How do you need to look at work a little bit differently
Yeah.
to then be able to spend more time with your family? How are you approaching your workload? Instead of trying to do everything all at the same time by last Friday, and like we said earlier, having a massive list, 101 things on your to-do list, like maybe we need to do something about that. How about asking these questions? Let's narrow it down and then let's focus our time. And then all of a sudden, we're like, oh, I feel a bit calmer, a bit more in control, and a bit more confident about this. And I'm seeing my family more. And I'm still making a big difference at work. Wow. I didn't know this was possible. No, you didn't, because you were still in that kind of Stuckville, accepting this is how it needed to be.
Yeah.
You just need to get a bit honest, get the courage to reach out, and we can work it through.
Yeah.
Not, it's miraculous when those kind of journeys happen, and they're not as difficult as it sounds. There are so many simple things that people can do that can really get them started. I mean, I've got those 7 steps, and people go, "Oh, I've got 7 steps. How long is that going to take?" Well, you can spend this afternoon getting honest, getting clear, and getting passionate, and then figure out who you need to call to get help with. Like, you could do that today.
Yeah.
Like, it might not be done to the nth degree, and you could go a little deeper, and maybe that person that's going to help you could help you go deeper. But your starting point is, you know what? I've got enough there to go. I need to go and speak to that person, and hopefully they can help. Right? You can do that today. It doesn't have to be this long, laborious process.
No.
You don't have to master it for each step for six months, which is kind of like some of the personal development stuff feels like, right? It's like wading through treacle, especially when you've got 57 steps to success. It's like, oh God, I'm exhausted by step 2. I'm like, I can't hold all that. Just like, simplify this for me.
Yeah.
So there you go. And hopefully today we've talked about so many different things and so many different examples and so many different ways to look at honesty. And hopefully we've also simplified it in terms of what it really means and the impact it can have if we don't get honest. And also some of those, we trick ourselves into thinking that we're honest, but we're not really being honest. So let's just go a little bit deeper and then really find out what's going on so that we can do something about it. Because everybody's worth it.
Absolutely.
They're worth living their best life. They're worth making some improvements or some changes in whatever area, whether it's big, small, medium, whatever.
Yeah.
But
absolutely.
you're worth it.
Yes.
Oh.
Wow.
We always get to this point with our talk. Oh, wow. Yeah. Wow. Well, I certainly hope that's been helpful. I mean, have you got any other thoughts, Jill, on this?
Well, I just think, like you say, keep it simple. Keep to the basics.
Yeah.
When you're asking yourself the questions of, am I being honest?
Yeah.
Maybe ask the question, why wouldn't I be?
Yeah. 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 Whose
because
expectations or whatever are we trying to protect ourselves from by not being honest?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that's what, if we're not being honest, we're probably trying to protect ourselves from something.
Not letting somebody down.
Yeah.
Or incurring wrath from somebody.
Yeah. Judgment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Expectation, weakness, all that kind of stuff. And as we started, we said simple, but not easy.
Yeah.
Okay. The honesty bit, I've said it so many times, it can be emotional, it can be uncomfortable.
Yes.
But I'll be honest with you, the more uncomfortable you can get, the better. Because you are more likely to then go and do something about it.
Yeah.
Because
and you honestly, get to the core of it then.
You do, yeah. Because the stuff we put up with in life or compromise on in life, we haven't gone deep into, is that really bothering me? So we just accept it. Yeah. And some of these things, they don't have overly material impact on our lives. But if we really stood back and really examined it a little bit, maybe it could just be a bit better, and maybe that might make all the difference.
Yeah.
So it's worth just looking at these things.
It is.
And I think as a starting point, if all of this feels like too much, too big, all these different examples, it's like maybe start with those I'm gonnas. Like just start with that and just go, how many I'm gonnas are you holding at the moment? And how many do you add each day? How many are you following through on? And how many aren't you following through on? And what do you think about yourself when you think about those things you're not following through on?
Yeah.
Just do that as an exercise.
Yeah.
And then
That's a good regular
answers.
exercise.
Yeah. I think just that in itself will bring all manner of answers that could give you an insight into some of the things you might want to change. And important, like we said, about write down who you want to be. Like if it is about that next version of you, like when you do that, I'm gonna's, you're going to realize, wow, that's not the kind of person I want to be.
Mm.
You know, in fact, I hadn't even really realized I'd become that person because this stuff has just happened over time. Okay, and now I've seen it because I've written it down. I can do something about that. Right? I like this, I like this, I don't like this, and I don't like the fact that there's 30 things on this list. That's ridiculous. Right. 3 things a day. Let's try that. Simplify, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, that alone, let alone anything else you might want to improve or change or achieve, that alone can improve your quality of life.
Takes away
and your energy. Yeah. And release a lot of that stuff in your brain that's going, oh, I don't follow through, or oh, I didn't do that again, or like you just release all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And most of it isn't important.
No.
But you need to, in that list, you need to figure out the bits that are important.
Yeah.
And usually that stuff that's about your health, about your family, about that balance, about feeding on purpose. That's the stuff that you should pay most attention to. Yeah,
absolutely. This has been a wonderful talk, Martin.
Thank you, Jill. Thanks for having me on, and thanks everybody for watching the live people, the replayers. I know you got people there, so it's been a privilege and a pleasure. And I know it's blown my mind. We've covered so much.
I know.
But I genuinely hope it's also made sense to people, and that you can take the simplified parts of that. So I think a lot of it was examples. So, and as you said already, if anybody wants to talk this stuff through, if it sparks something in them, then that's what we're here for. And
absolutely,
it'd be a privilege and a pleasure to talk it through.
I know. Thank you, Martin. Thank you for your time.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
And thank you, everybody who joined us live, and thank you, everybody who's going to watch on the replay.
Indeed. Thank you so much. I will
stop the live stream now. So Martin and I are going to say goodbye.
Goodbye.